What if I told you Inception's wildest heist happened before the movie? Dive into The Cobol Job, the explosive prequel where Cobb's team infiltrates a rival's dreams and everything unravels. Full breakdown, secrets revealed, watch now. The comic begins with a narrative. We see Cobb wandering in a city of dreams. Professor Miles brought them into Dreamshare to prove to them that their creativity knew no bounds, and Cobb soon realized that he was right. I mean, what took God 6 entire days to do, these guys could do it in 30 seconds, while they were resting. But there's one thing that Cobb understands. He's not God, and he keeps reminding himself of this truth, because if not, his mind would really spiral out of control and into the God complex, a place he does not want to go. While crossing a road, someone calls out his name, Dom. Cobb knows this voice, but does not turn around to greet the person. He tells himself to just walk away and not to turn around. But the voice presses further and says, "It's good to see you, Dom. I've missed you. You don't have to go." The voice belonged to his late wife, Mal, who took her own life, and Dom Cobb simply could not resist himself from turning around to see her, and just as he does that, a bus from the dream realm manifests and nearly runs over Cobb. And he would have died in here, but someone grabs Cobb in the nick of time and pulls Cobb out of the way. It was Arthur, ever the reliable friend and colleague of Cobb, his right-hand man. Thankfully, Arthur did not see Mal, and nor did Cobb want to tell Arthur about her, cause that would have put the mission in jeopardy, which Cobb did not want at any cost. Cobb then asks Arthur about the whereabouts of the Cobol engineering guys, and Arthur tells him they were right around the corner, waiting for Cobb. They start walking towards the men, but Cobb turns around one last time, hoping to get another glimpse of Mal. He doesn't. Next, they meet Cobol Engineering's finest, South African thugs with a penchant for violence as well as stupidity, which only made them more dangerous down here in the Dreamshare. They were about to enter a building when Cobb asked the leader of the Cobol guys for the bag that he was carrying, but the man refused to hand it over, telling Cobb that he needed to bear witness to whatever Cobb found. The men were pretending to be tourists, but Cobb knew that they would only serve as a hindrance to what he really wanted. He asked Arthur if he could take care of them, distract them, and Arthur, cool as ever, tells Cobb that he could do it in his sleep. After which, Arthur guides 3 of the men to another location while Cobb and the Cobol security leader head inside the building. Now, Cobb thinks to himself that Professor Miles would never have really approved of this, cause creation should always be for the sake of creation and never for profit. Oh, and by the way, Miles is the same guy played by Michael Caine, father of Mal, father-in-law to Cobb, and professor of Ariadne, who we see in the movie. Moving on, Arthur and the men enter a jewelry store, shoot the security guard, and ask the manager to set off the silent alarm, which was obviously a bit shocking to the store manager. I mean, what kind of robbers do such a thing? Anyway, the poor store manager was at gunpoint and he obliged to Arthur's request or order. Arthur then asked the Cobol thugs to let everyone go, which surprised them because they were not taking any hostages. But Arthur reminds them that as soon as the subject felt threatened, the hostages would tear them apart. And either way, they were going to have their hands full with the police. And speaking of the devil, the cops were there. They surrounded the place and covered every entrance and exit. Meanwhile, Cobb and the Cobol guy meet Nash, an architect, but not a very reliable one. He was in fact hired only because he was the only one available at such a short notice. Cobb asks him about Kaneda's office, and Nash guides him, but they need a distraction. I mean Cobb and the other guy, so that they could reach Kaneda and seek the information they needed. Nash rises up to the task and starts running through the employee-only area of the office, which prompts the security to go after him. The distraction was created. Cobb now had his window of opportunity, and he leapt onto it. They enter Kaneda's office, who was clearly shocked to see 2 random men there, and he threatens to call the police. But Cobb tells him that there was really no point in calling the cops cause they were busy. Yeah, so the whole jewelry store shenanigan was pulled off by Arthur to attract the police, and the plan worked like a walk in the park. Upstairs, Cobb tells Kaneda that no one needs to get hurt, and all he needs from him is the password to Kaneda's computer. Kaneda, of course, says no, cause that's what all people in his situation in movies and comics do. When the Cobol thug pulls out his gun, Kaneda calmly tells him that killing him would not get them anything, and they could just kill themselves. To this, Cobb says, and I quote, "We're prepared for that," as he pulls out his own gun and shoots the Cobol guy in the head. So this was enough to prove just how serious Cobb was about his mission and his objective, but he goes it a step further, and it is now that he plays his big move. He puts the bag on the table before Kaneda, unzips it, and reveals a ticking bomb. He tells Kaneda that if he did not give him what he needed, everyone would die. Oh, and if you are wondering what happened to the other guy Cobb shot, he simply woke up somewhere. Down at the jewelry store, it was a total shootout situation between the Cobol thugs led by Arthur and the cops. But wait, the cops stopped shooting. Clearly something must have gotten their attention, which was not good for business. Seeing this, one of the Cobol guys shoots himself, because that would help him wake up from the dream. Furthermore, a SWAT van was driving up the street and they were all heading to Kaneda's office. Somehow, Arthur makes his way to the first floor of the office building where Kaneda's office was housed and starts shooting the cops left, right, and center. But he gets cornered by more cops and has to make a quick escape. Meanwhile, Nash was hiding from office security, but he's ultimately found by Kaneda's receptionist. Now this woman, you won't believe, broke open an axe and struck Nash with it, killing him. Now you must remember that Nash was the architect, and once he fell, the dream itself started to collapse on itself, which meant that Cobb had to hurry with whatever he needed to do. There was really no time. He tells Kaneda that the bomb would go off in 30 seconds, but the man could not understand what was happening around him, why everything was so blurry. Anyway, Kaneda unlocks the computer for Cobb, and knowing the gravity of the situation and the lack of time, he searches for this file on the RDS-1 Energy Expansion Program. But, as soon as he clicks on it, he finds his access denied. Cobb asks for a password for the memo, but Kaneda tells him that he doesn't know it. This angers Cobb because Kaneda was supposed to be the bloody chief engineer of this place, and no file should be above his level of clearance. It is now that Kaneda reveals that only Mr. Saito had access to that file, and that the expansion program was completely his idea. It hits Cobb now. It's Saito's idea, and if you want a reminder, Saito is the guy who hired Cobb in the movie. Anyway, the bomb goes off and the building goes up in flames, but Cobb walks out of there like nothing's happening, cause he knows that explosions don't hurt, they only haunt you more. But more importantly, because he knows he was just gonna wake up somewhere after it was over. And where does he wake up? Well, it was a hostage room. The first thing he does is use his token to find out if it was still a dream or reality, but he hears a voice coming from behind, telling him that he was done. Oh, and the spin of the totem is interrupted by this same other person, who happens to be one of the Cobol thugs. But the thugs are called off by Woodruff, the head of Cobol Engineering, who asks Cobb for the details of whatever he learnt in the dream share. However, Cobb tells him that he did not get anything worthwhile, cause only Saito knew the information that Woodruff sought. Woodruff, however, was not willing to buy it. How could the head of Proclus Global's engineering department not know about an expansion program that he himself designed? Which is when Cobb tells him that the plan was, in fact, Saito's brainchild. Which only meant that if they needed the information, they would need to extract it directly from Saito's mind. Woodruff suggests that Cobb and his associates stay for longer and do the same to Saito as they did to Kaneda. But Cobb refuses and tells him that that's not what they were hired to do. But Woodruff explains that he doesn't understand what was at stake here. You see, Cobol Engineering is in the process of bidding on a job to build an oil pipeline up the entire eastern coast of Africa. That endeavor is being financed by Fisher Morrow, the energy conglomerate whose major competitor happens to be Saito. Woodruff wanted to extract information from Kaneda and use it to sway Fisher Morrow into his own favor, but now he was empty-handed, and mostly because of Cobb's failure, and Woodruff's company did not accept failure. But if you think about it, this was all Woodruff's fault as he fed Cobb wrong information. Ultimately, Cobb agrees to take the job and decides to go to Tokyo with his team, as long as there were no tourists, and Woodruff agrees. But the problem is, Saito might be trained for this eventuality, and he could very well be a lucid dreamer, someone who can be after these guys from the very beginning. Cobb already has a plan in mind, and the comic ends with a narrative that this is no dream and Cobb cannot fail. That was all in this one, guys. If you liked the video, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Those 2 clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these lore lockdowns.